Exactly.
You made a very interesting point, which I really liked, which is there's a distinction between capex heavy and being capital efficiency, because usually there are founders who have a business which need capital, all right, and they usually are embarrassed to send the decks, because most of the decks, if they are not SaaS, are looked down upon, because SaaS is where you, as you said, where you get the hockey stick growth, and this there are so many challenges in the world to be solved. Not everything can be solved with SaaS, isn't it? So are you saying that investors should not be averse to capex heavy as long as it is capital efficient and that is a strong business model? And maybe what has been your experience as well?
I think so. I mean, I absolutely agree. And again, it goes back to the point earlier that I made, right, on the kind of ethos and investment thesis and sort of culture that a VC firm has, right? Someone who, there are companies, especially D2C space, who won't invest in capex heavy businesses, right? But anybody who's looking at prop tech, infrastructure, those are sustainability for that matter. Those can be capex heavy businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what needs to be clear is that when we look at those companies from an investment lens or even acceleration lens, right, we realize that that's going to be a longer cycle. The exit perhaps may come from a PE play versus a VC play, right? And we have the appetite for that, right? So I think as long as VCs who are open to a different sort of cycle and are accepting of that, I think absolutely should not run away from capex heavy.
I'm loving this conversation because I don't have such conversations with founders. You mentioned something. You said exit may happen PE play versus VC play. Could you? I usually grab onto anything that I need to learn from. What is the difference in PE play and VC play there?
So the PE plays are more, they're larger ticket sizes, more sort of larger businesses, right? So let's say you've got a SaaS company, right? Now that, let's say a founder needs to raise every 2 years, right? Initially, there's low sales. Every time a founder is sort of raising, the ticket sizes are small, the valuations relative to PE are small. They'll be initially kind of under the $1 million range valuation, then it'll go to 3, then it'll go to 5. The PE play tends to focus on funding kind of larger businesses, right? More stable businesses. They don't play necessarily in the very early stage, right? And so what I think it's two sort of totally different kind of investment channels, if you will. Right. So we have companies that are building, let's call it alternate to sort of paver blocks using recycled plastic, right? They've got manufacturing businesses. Now, very early on, they need money, and as they scale, the kind of money they need to put up plants across the country will be in, the tens of 15s, hundreds, millions of dollars. But those aren't necessarily VC plays, right? Because they're giving you 12, 15% PBT every year, right? Or even PAT every year. They're not going to give you these bullet returns of 100x in 3 years, 4 years, right? Whereas it's giving you a consistent return year on year. Those are more sort of PE type businesses, right? So we are open to both kind of routes or paths, if you will, because we recognize that, like you said, right, not every problem in the world can be solved by SaaS. There are a lot of, there's a reason made in India is becoming such a big, important kind of trend in our economy, right? Manufacturing requires capex. Those aren't VC businesses typically, right? So we personally look at kind of either option, and then we go into it with eyes wide open, saying, look, we may not get a VC exit in 3 to 5 years. It may be a PE exit in 7 to 8, possibly, right? Possibly. You can't predict the future either which way. But we're open to sort of that path, because we understand that and those businesses, though, when we look at, they have to be we have to see a very clear path to profitability in 12 to 18 months, because these businesses that are PE businesses, that are long-term businesses, they can't be reliant on funding quickly, because the minute they are, a risk comes, because if they don't get VC funding, then the whole business sort of collapses, right? So you look at it from a very different lens.
Very good.